Hey, what's up, people? Duncan here, the next governor of Oregon. Let me ask you something. Do you know what happens when our faith is removed? Do you know how they achieve that? Do you know how they achieve our rights, our gun rights being removed, our history being removed? Do you know how they achieve invading our nation, taking over our politics, and indoctrinating our children? Let me explain. Sit back, enjoy, and hear me out. So, the first thing they do is they look to open up our borders, to send jobs overseas, to create poverty inside our neighborhoods. And then once that poverty is created, they create these social programs, these socialistic programs like welfare, in order to help feed all the poverty families that they've created by removing industries and factories here in America. Now, they create the poverty, they create the open borders that allow for millions of illegals to come here illegally, unannounced, undocumented, unvetted. They come here, they start working under the table, they start getting jobs. Before you know it, places like California provide driver's licenses. So anybody from Mexico can come up, convert their driver's license right in California, and the minute they become a California driver's license holdee, they're automatically registered to vote. Now, regardless of your status, you're now able to vote. They encourage these individuals to vote illegally in order to pad their numbers for a higher popularity vote. Now, they use this disadvantage, this number, this elevated, pumped up number, in order to push their agenda of sanctuary sites and yada 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 all over this nation. Before you know it, they're allowed to infiltrate our schools. Before you know it, they're allowed to infiltrate into our neighborhoods. They're allowed to go walk freely amongst us without fear of deportation. We see that right here in Oregon right now. Now what happens is, because many of these undocumented are unable to work legally, many of them either work under the table and send a lot of the money home back to Mexico, or they have a bunch of kids and they live off the welfare of those multiple children. Sometimes both. This is a problem that we have. Now, it gets worse. These cities of sanctuary, these sanctuary sites, they begin to house these so-called refugees. Refugees coming from places in this world that hate us. These refugees come in. They are also given a vote inside of a large populace. Oftenly the largest populace of a state's electoral base. Like here in Oregon, Portland, which is a sanctuary city, now creates legislation because they have the population to overrun the rest of the state. So popularity rules here. Popularity that in fact is created through illegal immigration and a so-called refugee program. Now that popularity is pushing to raise taxes, they're pushing for free abortions, they're pushing to remove things like the Pledge of Allegiance. They're looking to remove "In God We Trust." Why do they want that? Well, they don't want any child, anybody, to have an allegiance to this nation. So they look to remove that Pledge of Allegiance. They don't want anybody to have faith in God we trust. Because simply put, our laws and our judicial system was based on the key elements of Christianity. Okay, when our forefathers were trying to figure out how to build this and how to make this all work, they put a Bible on the table. They said, how much of this can we put into that? And so we had things like murder charges and theft, and our basic laws began. And we went from there. So they want to remove that Christianity base, that faith base, because they want to remove our laws. Next, they go after our history. They go after our historical monuments. The monuments that expressed the last time our government got too big, too overpopulated, and suddenly no longer had the hearts and the minds of the American citizens at best interest. What they do is they start removing history that showed a time of individuals who stood against a large government. They start removing history for a moment in time for individuals who fought for things like the electoral colleges. They start fighting to remove history. Before you know it, they change history. They start indoctrinating our youth. They use history against us. They twist it. Before you know it, our monuments are ripped apart, tore down. The time when people stood, when the rebel cause was huge in this country. They want us to forget what happened the last time the American people stood. They want us to forget. They want us to understand that there is no path for the American freedoms, the American dream. So before you know it, they start attacking that foundation. You see, it continues. While removing those statues in the name of slavery and false narratives, they also go after our documents, our forefathers, our Constitution, our Bill of Rights. Next thing you know, in the name of slavery, they've removed much of our documentation, much of our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and all that good stuff. Before you know it, our forefathers are under attack, our Constitution's under attack, our history's under attack. Before you know it, everywhere you look around, the American people are under attack. Our way of life, our beliefs, our rights, everything we know, love, and cherish about this country is under attack. And then, before you know it, there's this massive gun control movement that happens. And the reason why they want this gun control movement is because they want the American people unarmed, uneducated, and fearful. They want the American people docile, ready to eat out of their hands through socialistic agendas and socialistic programs like welfare. The truth is, talking the way I talk in the place I live is a good way to come up missing or have accidents happen. But I'm unscared. I stand, I walk, and I talk the way I do. Because the truths need to be told. The truth is that this country for far too long has fell into the hands of the opposition. For far too long the American dream has been put on trial, put on hold, and put on a back burner. For far too long the American worker has suffered by overtaxation, by poverty, and the lack of jobs, by the exportation of industries, manufacturing, and the failure to invent more industries and to come up with other means of surviving in this nation. The American people are sick and tired of being under attack by our own government and our own elected officials that would rather represent the hearts and the minds of the undocumented instead of the own American citizens. You see, I am running as Oregon's next governor, and I'm doing it with purpose and with cause, because I want to overturn some of these ridiculous socialistic libertarian movements that are killing America. I want to fight to bring back the American truth, justice, and the way of law and order. I want to fight for the American people so that the American people can continue having a voice and they're not handcuffed by big city politics. I want to continue to fight so that we are no longer overtaxed, we are no longer indoctrinated, and we are no longer dictated into paying for things like abortion, free abortion, or health care for illegals. I refuse to allow 100,000 homeless. I refuse to allow sick, homeless veterans and our own citizens to go homeless while we export or while we import more drugs, violence, and poverty, along with criminals and slaves. We will not continue this path. Vote for me as Oregon's next governor, and together we will right these wrongs. We will rekindle the American dream. We will stifle out the socialistic agenda that is ruining this country. We will educate. We will never run on the basis of popularity politics, gender-based politics, or race-based politics. What I will offer you as Oregon's next governor is real solutions to real problems. So please, come join me, Mark Duncan, and help me redeem Oregon. Vote for me as Oregon's next governor. Thank you, and God bless.